Good afternoon, everyone. Good Saturday afternoon. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Tom Jensen, who's at Ninercast on Twitter, writes for all 49ers, si.com/NFL/49ers.
Right.
Free agency starts next week. It's like a big deal time.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. And as we're gearing up, Monday is the legal tampering period, 48 hours where they can sort of negotiate. And then things become official on Wednesday. As it's heating up, the defensive end market is heating up. And we know the Niners are in the market for one because Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell, all free agents. So the Niners could bring back any one of them, or they could get someone a lot better. We know Danielle Hunter's a free agent, but on the trade market and potentially getting cut soon, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, also on the trade market, Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, big time names.
Right.
What do you think the Niners should do here?
I think what they should do is take a look at Danielle Hunter and ask if they can afford to sign him. Right. 3 years, $60 million. Can they make that work after factoring in what Purdy is going to get paid?
Yeah,
that's going to be a big deal. After that, though, trading for somebody, you're better off waiting until free agency hits. Force them to give the player up so that you don't have to give up any draft capital. Joey Bosa has only played 9 games in 2 years. Khalil Mack is productive, but he's 33, so that's a risk. So how long of a contract would Mack want? What would the Niners be comfortable doing there? Hassan Reddick, I think he'd be too small for what the Niners want to do. Sweat's a nice player, but I think that he's probably priced out of what the Niners would be able to do in terms of what they'd be willing to give and what they'd be willing to pay. I think he's kind of out of their reach a little bit. So
yeah, with Hassan Reddick,
Hunter makes the most sense, but we'll see what happens with the Eagles.
Sure. Would Hassan Reddick really fit the Niners wide nine? Could he set the edge and the Niners wide nine defense?
I don't think so. I think he's too small to do that. And it's
Agree.
Not really what he could get done.
Plus, that being said, they did go after D Ford, who was not great.
And D Ford worked out when he was healthy, but how often was that? Not often enough.
So let's go back to the Chargers guys. Those two are interesting, Bosa and Mack, because it looks like the Chargers might cut one or both of them. I mean,
the
trading for Mack seems like a no-go. The Niners don't have enough cap space right now. But if either guy gets cut, they could offer a multi-year contract that's backloaded with the signing bonus and make it work now and in the future.
Yeah, and there's a reporter covering the Chargers who says that I wouldn't rule it out when he was asked about Joey Bosa to the Niners. And so there's someone within that reporting community who thinks it's possible. But in terms of doing a move now, I don't think it is because Mack makes too much. And Bosa, you're likely waiting for him to get cut. There's no need to give picks when chances are they're going to cut him in a couple days anyway. But the question becomes, what are you going to get from Joey Bosa? If he's healthy, great. But how often is that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Let's say both Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack get cut. And although I think that's going to happen, both of them?
Probably not. They would want to try to restructure with Mack or do something, but it's possible that they end up leaving both of them. It depends on what Harbaugh wants to do.
Which defensive end would you prefer the Niners to go after, Mack or Joey Bosa?
Mack. I don't trust Joey Bosa to stay healthy. I don't want him.
Hey, he's like 4 years younger than Khalil Mack, but it seems like he's older. He really hasn't been that good the last couple of years, whereas Mack hasn't missed a game in years, and he just put up 17.5 sacks this past season. So, yeah, he's still that guy.
Right. So I would, but it's a question of what does Mack want? And I would think that he's going to price himself out of the range of what the Niners would be willing to pay.
Well, how about this, though? Let's say the Niners, instead of – I'm not that good at the cap stuff. But instead of waiting for or hoping that Khalil Mack gets cut and then competing with other teams, why don't you just trade for Mack and then give him an extension?
You could, but then do you want to give an extension to a 33-year-old player?
Okay.
How many years? The contract negotiation gets tough is what I'm saying.
It does. But I'm just trying to play it out in my mind. If he were to get cut and the Niners would offer him, what, a 2 or 3 year deal anyway? Probably. Let's say they offer him a 3 year deal. So you could give him an extension for 2 more years. Try to convert.
player out in the third year so that you wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily pay the third. That's doable.
it might be doable. I don't know.
Depends on what the Chargers would be asking for it, and they want a 5th-round pick, a 4th-round pick. As long as it's day 3, okay,
Right.
but otherwise, no.
It'd be worth it, I think, to trade a day 3 pick to make sure that you get Khalil Mack. Because the thing about trading for Khalil Mack, yeah, he is older, but he's a Hall of Fame player. And it doesn't look like he's declining. I mean, maybe a little bit, but this would be, you could argue this would make them the Super Bowl team that they've been trying to beat. Khalil Mack on this team would be crazy.
Yeah, and they tried to trade for him back in 2018 or whatever it was.
They did.
Where they tried to, and with good reason, that Mack at the time was the best defensive end in the league. And now he's proven that while he's fallen off some, he hasn't fallen off a lot. He's still a great player. And so it's just, is what you can get done in terms of a contract agreement with Mack something that the Niners can work with going forward, given that they have all these other things they got to take care of in terms of extending Aiyuk, extending Purdy, getting Juwan Jennings re-signed, et cetera. How do you fit all that in, plus dealing with the contracts that they've already got in the books? It's tough to do. It's you got to thread the needle on all that.
I mean, it seems irresponsible, really, to go after another really, really, really expensive defensive lineman. But it's what the Niners do. I'm not advocating for it. But these are the 49ers, and they spare no expense on the defensive line. They have to have game changers at all 4 spots, unless otherwise it's just there's no point in even playing the game.
Yeah, apparently, according to them anyway.
Which is so funny because on the offensive line, they just have to have guys who are good enough, except at left tackle. On D-line, that's not good enough.
D-line, it's got to be gold-plated. Yeah,
got to be.
Come on now. There comes a point when you have to say, how much is too much in investing in one position group on a team?
Right.
But according to the rumors, Tim Kawakami has reported that they're looking to take a big swing at the top of the free agent market, which lends itself to that's got to be an edge. So Hunter, Josh Allen, Brian Burns, or the guy that I want, Jonathan Greenard from Houston, because he's a 3-down edge, and a guy that's top 10 against the run and top 10 pass rush win rate. That's who I would target. But the Niners deal in names. They want to get the name. And so Greenard wouldn't fit that requirement.
Sure. Although he definitely fits their scheme, and he just played well for D'Amico Ryans. The thing about the Niners, you could argue that they have to make a big move. Not necessarily for a big name, but a big move because I think the Lions will. And they're right there with the Niners. And I think the Rams will too. And they're not far off either. So if the Niners just think they can stand pat and sort of work around the edges, they might get passed up by these teams who are younger than them and improve.
And have a lot more cap room.
Right.
Detroit's got, $50 million in cap room? And they've got one of the best drafting GMs in the league in Brad Holmes.
Yeah.
They're going to leapfrog unless you make a corresponding move to compete. Detroit is in on Snead. They're in on the top free agent edges. They're in on Mack. They're going to make an impact move. They know where they're weak, and they'll address it. So the Niners have to do something in kind. What that is, I don't know. My choice would be Greenard, but if I had to predict, and I gave Jesse grief about this, but he may end up being right. Daniil Hunter.
Well, Matt McEwen says Nick wants Joey, and Joey wants to play with Nick. Joey should take a pay cut.
Yeah, that's not how the Bosas work.
It's not how they work. I'll take less money so I can play with my brother. No, sorry.
No.
I don't know about that. One of them wouldn't be able to wear number 97. I don't know.
Clinging to hope. Anything you can find to say, no, Joey.
So Nick Bosa's the GM now?
Yeah, that would be the case. But then why would Joey Bosa go to a team with Brandon Staley, who he hates?
Yeah.
It's thorny.
I just go get Khalil Mack. Why mess around? This is a position you want. Just you tried to trade for him 5 years ago. You had the deal. He's still great.
Yeah, well, and the key with Khalil Mack is you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to get a productive guy that doesn't get injured, that you know exactly what he does, and you can count on it. As opposed to Joey Bosa in his 9 games, or as opposed to Drake Jackson and box of chocolates. It's just the draft, you're not sure what you're going to get at edge. And there are some great talents there, but Will they be great pros? We don't know.
I mean, he was
the
better
Niners
than
keep throwing
Nick
picks
Bosa.
at that? Yeah, I don't know.
He was better than Bosa last year. Nick Bosa.
Right.
Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Why
Mack
not?
had an incredible
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, if you're
33
gonna
and
make a big
producing
swing
at
at
that
it,
level is really
yeah.
impressive. And it
You're gonna make
also
a big swing.
shows his commitment. Yeah.
You're right. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no worries.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna make a big swing at this position, forget Josh Sweat. Like,
Yeah. Josh Sweat's a mid guy.
don't get a mid guy. Either draft a guy or go get Khalil Mack.
Swing away.
Swing away.
If you're going to do this, go get the player that you know you can count on, because that's always been the issue: is that you get this guy and he gets hurt. Okay, so based on the D Ford experience, why are you even talking about Joey Bosa?
Thank you. That's the discussion I wanted to have. No, with Joey Bosa. No.
Yeah.
Injury guy. No. It's Mac. And with Reddick, I don't know. He might be a little too small. I mean, you could say maybe he could have he could play in the system like D4 did, maybe. But that's only if you don't get Mac. Go get Mac. Because you know the thing about him? He's great at everything.
Yeah, he's a complete player, and that's something you need.
He's a future Hall.
And that's why I like Greenard, is that he's a complete player too. He's a guy that can stop the run and get after the passer.
And he's younger.
And that's what they need. They need that kind of a player. A designated pass rusher doesn't solve one of the biggest issues on this team, setting the edge against the run.
They had those guys last year, and it didn't work. That's what Chase Young is. If you want to get a designated pass rusher, just bring back Chase.
Right. But there's no point in that.
Matt McEwen, thanks for being a member for 7 months. Matt McEwen, again, if the Niners go in interior, I think Niners go in interior offensive line in the draft, center, I believe. We're going to talk about where they're going in round 1 in a minute. Matt McEwen, again, not advocating for Joey, just saying what the Niners think. Well, I think that's what Nick thinks. But we know John Lynch tried very hard to trade for Khalil Mack once upon a time. They might feel one Bosa's enough. It's hard being in business with the Bosas.
Yeah. Do you really want to go double down on the Bosas?
It's hard. I don't know. All right.
Nah.
So let's say the Niners, for whatever reason, don't make a big acquisition at defensive end in free agency, because these could be some pretty expensive players. Maybe they feel there's better value in the draft. I mean, the Chiefs just drafted George Karlaftis a couple years ago at pick 30, which is right around where the Niners are.
Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah, so, I mean, is there a player he started right away for the Chiefs. Is there a player, a plug-and-play DN, 3-down linebacker for the Niners in round 1?
Well, there's a couple of guys. So Chop Robinson is probably the top player around their range, and he ran very well at Indy. And, this is the program that produced Micah Parsons. So Micah didn't have great stats at Penn State, but he had huge measurables, and so does Chop. Yeah. So you can look at that and say, that's worth looking at.
Is Chop a DN or is he outside linebacker?
I think that you make him into a DN.
Okay.
That's the best use of him.
My question with that is, like, if he's not quite a DN, like, is he playing 3 downs as a rookie? Is my question.
Probably not. I think that he would need to power up to get to NFL strength.
Okay. All the more reason to trade for Khalil Mack. Keep going.
Yeah.
All the more reason. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you on all this, Grant.
Yeah.
Marshawn Nealon, Western Michigan, 6'3", 267, and a good edge setter. So you get a 3-down guy, and he did pretty well at Indy.
6'3", 267?
Rising up. Yeah, 6'3", 267.
Okay.
23 years old, 34.5-inch arms. He's pretty solid.
Okay.
And he worked out well. Yeah, he's somebody that they should look at.
So Darius he's a good edge setter, good run defender. How's his pass rush?
Let me look up the stats for him. Western Michigan, you have to factor that in. 37 pressures, 6 sacks, win rate of 17.3, true win rate of 34.1. So great stats, but at Western Michigan.
6 sacks?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which is okay, but he's more edge setter than pass rusher.
Okay.
Darius Robinson from Missouri, he would be an Eric Armstead replacement as a hybrid inside-outside guy.
They need that.
They do.
They need that. Yeah. If the Niners
Robinson
get like a D end in free agency, they could absolutely go hybrid D tackle in round 1.
Right. And he did pretty well. He wasn't a big sack guy though. 26 pressures. Well, let me see.
Because to me right now, Armstead is sort of like at that stage where Bowman and Sherman were at the end of their career. Like, yeah, they're your starter, but you kind of have to assume that you're not going to have him for long stretches, and you have to be prepared for that time.
Yeah. You have to assume at this point that he's going to miss
Yeah.
5 games.
Yeah.
So for Robinson, 39 pressures, 8 sacks, 15.9 win rate. He's good, but he's not necessarily what Kasarik loves most, which is the great first step. He doesn't have the explosion off the line, but he's a talented player. He's got a full skill set. I'm not as sold on him as others are. A lot of people were blown away by his workouts at Mobile in the Senior Bowl, but he used a lot of the extra space that you get in those practices to win. And that space he's not going to have in the NFL. So I factor that into his one-on-ones and say, I'm not really sold on the guy.
Okay,
but
I got bonus questions for you.
They'll look at him though.
I got a bonus question for you at this position. So the Niners, they're in the DN market. They're probably going to draft one at some point or sign one, but they did draft one last year and the year before that. Robert Beal, Drake Jackson. I mean, the Niners, they're this team that doesn't like playing young players, and they redshirt them. And then did they give up on Is there anything there? What do you think?
I think that Beal showed flashes at Georgia. It's just a question of, does he have NFL strength now? Is he capable of playing in more than a designated passer role, or is that all he's ever going to be in the league? We don't really have the answer to that yet.
Right.
But based on what he showed at Georgia, I think that he's got the talent to be a designated rusher in the league. But we don't know yet. We haven't seen enough. We don't know.
What about Drake?
I don't think Drake works. Drake kept floating around in terms of SC kept playing with him. They said that add weight, no lose weight, no add weight. Yeah. And they just kept moving him around, and he never got centered in one thing. And so he ended up being this decathlete that's good at whatever you want him to eventually do if he molds his body to it, but he's not great at the one thing. And that's what you need is a specialist that's great in one area that you can count on. I don't think
can he do anything for this team?
I think that he can be a guy that just plugs in as somebody as part of the rotation to give people a rest. And you hope that Drake plays okay, but we'll have to see. Drake put in a ton of work last year to mold his body. Let's see what he does this year in the offseason to try to get ready and compete and find a way to contribute.
It doesn't seem like he's strong enough or big enough to be a base down edge setter like Cleveland Farrell or Samson Ebukam, and it doesn't seem like he's a good enough pass rusher to be a designated pass rusher. So it seems like he may not even make the team next year.
He probably should, just because they need the depth.
Bodies.
But it still comes down to good but not good enough in too many areas, and not great when what you need most is great in something. And he's not. And a lot of that I attribute to USC just playing around with his weight and his role.
Yeah, well, at a certain point, he's going to need to take some initiative. I don't know what it is, but they had high hopes for him. And all of a sudden, it's like he's gone.
Yeah, well, he's just a guy. At this point, he's just a guy.
He's the defensive end version of Ty Davis Price.
Yeah, he might be on that road.
All right, let's make some sleeper picks. I'm trying to get in to basketball because it's the off season, and I don't really enjoy regular season basketball. I like playoff basketball.
Basketball is great.
Making picks makes the games better to me. So let's make some sleeper picks for the Warriors game tonight. They're playing San Antonio. It's just a dreadful team, and Steph Curry's out.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't won any of these yet. I keep making like 5-6 picks per, and I want to win one. So let's make 3 really good picks today and try to. And it has to be 2 on the Warriors and 1 on the Spurs. So
well, let's go with Wembanyama for the Spurs, and just give him a whole bunch of stuff.
I don't see him
because the Warriors don't have.
But they have. I found this one earlier that I kind of like, the double on Zach Collins. He hasn't had one in a while. Let's just say no.
Okay,
I mean, he's not even good.
No,
I like that one. He has to like get 2 stat categories to make. So I'm going less.
Okay,
I saw that
makes sense. That's good.
Okay, so for the 2 Warriors ones, I was thinking Chris Paul and Klay Thompson with Steph Curry out. What are those 2 going to do? What do you think would be a good one for Klay Thompson? 3s, points?
3s, because he's going to get more of them with Steph gone.
Well, don't you think? Okay, let's do more of the threes for Clay.
Yeah.
And then for Chris Paul, are we going points, assists, double?
He could get a double because his assist numbers could be high enough. He's going to have to do something.
Should we?
So if
but
he
look at
gets
the
the
odds
ball
on the
inside
double.
to Kuminga, it's more of just CP3 or Kuminga.
And you see it there. We get times 3.2 odds.
Oh well, then
by pressing
that.
More, picking more.
The issue for Kuminga is this: just if Wembanyama is healthy, Kuminga's going to get some stuff swatted. So
I see.
Take it outside.
Let's do one for. Let's make a Kuminga pick and then call it because I don't want to get too crazy. I want to win. Kuminga. We got assists.
Well, did we do something with Chris Paul?
Yeah, we did more on a double. Or do you think we should should we just stick to assists?
No, double is good.
I like it. Okay. And then Kuminga. We got
points because they're gonna need them.
Points. Where you at? Points. Where's points? Assists, points and rebounds, threes, points and assists. Sometimes Sleeper confuses me sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know.
If they go points and boards, then I guess that's what we'll have to do.
28.5.
Yeah, go with that.
More. Let's do it. Let's lock it in.
Okay.
I'm determined to win. I win $135 dollars if I get these picks right.
There you go.
Let's make it happen, Sleeper. If you guys want to play at home, you want to make some picks, use the promo code COHN, get a deposit match up to $500. Also, when you use that promo code Cohn for your first deposit, you get entered into a contest to win a signed Brandon Aiyuk jersey. Right here. You can get it.
Nice.
And the thing is, $10 deposit, make some picks. You could win, and then essentially you don't even spend any money. And you get an Aiyuk jersey. It's probably how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
How can you say no to that?
How can you say no to that? Okay. Boom. Back to football.
Okay.
The 49ers, to the delight of their fan base, extended Colton McKivit's contract yesterday, and now he's sticking around through 2025. Why did they do this? And what are the implications for the draft where we thought the Niners were surely going to spend their first round pick on an offensive tackle?
Yeah. Well, what are they thinking? It's Kyle being Kyle. It's just, McKivitz gave me what I want out of the right tackle position, therefore I'm okay, and he wants to lock it down. And for the Niners, it's you're paying starter money to McKivitz at 7 in the extension. For the rest of the NFL, it's 7's my backup. But for this team, 7 is starter money. And so I think that since it's an extension, you're talking McKivitz is the starter this year and next year, which means that tackle is off the board especially in terms of trading up in the first round. That's gone. That's off the table. And then it's just, what else are you going to do? What tackles do you like further down the draft? But I think that tackle is probably something that's going to go no earlier than the third round, if that.
Yeah, they might get a guy that they could sit for a year or two and develop. But it seems to me that Kyle Shanahan is telling us that he likes Colton McKivitz. I think the way Kyle looks at McKivitz is that he's essentially Mike McGlinchey for cheaper. And the reason McGlinchey is so expensive is because he was a first-round pick. And people look at Colton McKivitz and see, former fifth-round pick, was on the practice squad, went to Kyle. I think he sees no difference. And I think it probably amuses him that he can get McKivitz for so much cheaper than he would have to pay McGlinchey when it's like the same player, the same number, the same name. It's like the same. It's just the same.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it feeds into Kyle's strategy of saving cap through the offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's an ego hit of, see, my strategy is working.
And I know a lot of people are on Twitter saying, like, this doesn't stop the Niners from still getting an offensive tackle. It's like, are they the team that over-invests in the offensive line? It's like, since when? Like, they're done.
Yeah. It's just, they're not trading up in the first to get a Marius Mims like Coach and I want. They're not doing that. They're just going to get a tackle at some point. There's a tackle that they could like and say that, okay, this is somebody worth having, and they take him and surprise us. But I think that it's more likely, and Matt McCune said this, that they go interior line with the first pick is far more likely than tackle. Graham Barton at Duke is the most likely pick there.
The way I look at this pick at 31 is you have to draft a starter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Barton
Guy
would be.
who's gonna
Barton
play.
would start at center. Yeah.
And with McKivitz, you just extend it. He's your starting right tackle.
Yeah, for 2
And
years.
you need
He's done.
starters at right guard, potentially defensive end, linebacker. You need a number 3 corner. You need starters. You
Yeah,
can't
and I
mess
think that-
around with some redshirt guy, backup specialist at that spot. So
Right. And for a top-heavy team, and now you're finally in the first round, you need to come out of the first with the starter. And so Graham Barton at center.
Yep.
You can get anybody. You can
Graham
get,
Barton. Could you put him at guard for a year or 2?
You could, but
Okay.
The consensus on him is that his best place in the NFL is center.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because
he plays tackle now at Duke.
The reason I asked that is I believe Chris Forrester and Kyle Shanahan really like Jake Brendel, the way they really like Colton McKivitz. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling those two are, the Niners essentially developed those 2 players. Yeah.
But at the same time, they had a formal interview with Barton at Indy, and usually when they do something like that, it shows interest.
True. Remember a few years ago, the Saints drafted Cesar Ruiz in the first round, late in the first round. Center. They've been playing him at guard for a while. Niners could do something similar. I saw someone say a few months ago that if Brock Purdy is the next Drew Brees, then maybe you should build the offensive line sort of similar to how the Saints did, where you have really good players right up front, in the middle, guard and center, because he can handle the edge pressure, but the pressure in his face is going to be tougher for him. He's smaller.
Yeah, exactly. And that worked for New Orleans to give some help inside so that Breeze had a pocket to work with.
Yeah.
So it's possible. But since they're saying that we want to re-sign John Feliciano, they're down to center as the only option to play with. And at that point, then it's okay, which center? And Barton's the number 2 center. The number 1 is Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, but he's expected to go in the early 20s.
I just had a really crazy outside the box vision. It just came to me. Tell me what you think. Okay. So McKivitz got an extension and it's significant money, but it's not anywhere near what high level or top level starting tackles make. In fact, you could argue it's guard money.
For
any
most
chance,
of the league.
Pardon?
For most of the league, yeah.
Yeah. Any chance the Niners move McKivitz to guard and get an offensive tackle in round 1?
I don't think so, because Lynch said in Indianapolis it's a priority of us to go re-sign Feliciano. So I think that his thinking is Feliciano. Also that McKivitz, when he has played guard, hasn't set the world on fire. Yeah. Part of the reason that he went to tackle is because that's where he belonged in terms of his skill set and what he did well. He didn't play well inside. So I don't think that they're considering that at all.
Okay, fair enough. Matt McEwen says free agency, I like Bryce Huff.
Problem with Bryce Huff is he cannot defend the run at all. So whatever you pay Bryce Huff is designated pass rusher only. Jeez. And usually when that's the case, you're overspending.
Matt McEwen says they draft a center in round 1. It's Kyle saying Brendel's fault for 9 free rushers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But as long as it ends up being Graham Barton, I'm good. Or
I don't know. The only offensive lineman I've seen the team really throw under the bus after this game was Burford. So to me, I mean, the question is, what are they going to do at center and tackle? What are they going to do at guard? Because that's a position where they might be looking for a starter. We'll talk about Feliciano in a second.
Yeah.
How about we'll talk about him now? Will the Niners re-sign John Feliciano? I mean, he ended the season as their starting right guard. Now he's a free agent.
I think they will. Lynch said that that's a priority for them, and it fits with their thinking. If you think that McKivitz is worth extending, you also think that you can basically bring everybody back and you're good. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they re-sign Feliciano. It's what Lynch wants to do, and it fits their mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I think they want as much continuity as possible in the offensive line. That's what they're going to sell. It's like, look, we didn't necessarily improve the offensive line, but it's the same. And it's gelling. It's congealing.
Well, there is an argument to continuity that your overall performance can improve with continuity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all these guys have lower ceilings because they were taken in the 5th round.
Right.
Or undrafted.
Yeah. And John Feliciano just made the offensive line room really awkward.
That dude.
He did that. I don't know. I mean, I think they could do better than John Feliciano. And
sure they can. In the draft.
I think they could do a lot better. So if they want to give him like a 1-year contract with incentives that they, with nothing guaranteed, fine. Other than that, don't get a bidding war for John Feliciano.
Oh, I don't think there will be.
No. Yeah, bring him back.
Nobody else except the Niners is looking at John Feliciano as their starting guard. So I don't think there's going to be any competition.
Yeah. But I could see them making this position a priority just because Kyle Shanahan likes scapegoating people, things, positions.
He's done it before.
He has. When Tyler Kroft couldn't make an impossible block in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
They got it. They drafted a tight end round 3 a couple months later.
Right.
When Spencer Burford couldn't make an impossible block, he essentially couldn't block 2 people in one play, Justin Reed and Chris Jones. They could re-sign Feliciano, or they could make a big investment in right guard and show everyone that this is the reason they lost. I don't know. That's kind of what they do.
It's history. It fits the culture of, we want to blame somebody. I mean, you're really going to blame Tyler Kroft for asking him to block on an island against Hassan Reddick?
100%.
Did Kyle know that Hassan Reddick is a second team All-Pro? Probably not. Did Kyle know that McKinney was an All-Pro this year? Probably not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. That's their fault. Yeah, that's not on Kroft. Oh well.
John Feliciano. What an exciting
time. Feliciano, I would think, would happen.
Yeah. That would be really Super Bowl. Just hand him the Lombardi right now. The same offensive line as last year. Are you kidding?
We're bringing them all back. We
bringing it all back.
Now I know the overtime rules. We're going to win.
What I heard, all I heard after the Super Bowl from the biggest fans, the biggest defenders of this team is, don't worry. The Niners, it's a great opportunity. They're going to really beef up their offensive line this offseason. That's what they're going to do. And when they don't, those same people are going to say it was so smart not to touch the offensive line and just leave it alone. Like,
okay.
Is it?
I don't think that they're going to do something that dumb. You've got, Coach and I were just talking about this earlier today, that this draft is probably the best in 15 years in terms of overall depth of talent at the 3 offensive line positions. So come on. And you've got maybe 8 tackles that get picked in the first round in this draft, possibly. And 5 to 6 of them can start day one. And the Niners, in extending McKivitz, have just said, no, we don't need any of those guys.
I got a point here. Okay, for years the Niners would sort of build their offensive line with Aaron Donald in mind. Got to face this guy twice a year. We need someone who can handle his quickness. He's so good. Okay, forget Aaron Donald. That's over with. Yeah. The one D tackle standing between you and a Lombardi is Chris Jones, who's way different than Donald. He's huge, and every time you face the Chiefs, he destroys you.
Yeah.
Destroys you. So maybe it is time to say, you know what, Spencer Burford, you're a hell of a project. You're a left tackle. You're young. John Feliciano, you're a good vet. We need an impact player at right guard because we're matching up with Chris Jones at the crossroads. Spencer Burford, John Feliciano, you guys could do great all year, but it doesn't seem like either you guys can. I mean, who can? But it seems like you might need to make a bigger effort. Try a little harder to get someone who can at least hold their own against that guy. Right. You're going to face him.
Well, and the playoff games are won on matchups.
Yeah.
And if Chris Jones dominates his matchup, guess what's going to happen to you? And that's what happened in both Super Bowls. And so can you really justify saying that we don't have someone who on a physical talent level alone can't match up? And therefore, you've got to do something about it. But Kyle is married to, I want guys that know my system, that execute what I want them to do. I don't want to ramp anybody up. I don't want a rookie. I want vets. And so we get this. We get McKivitz. We get Feliciano. And there's Chris Jones saying, oh, boy. But Chris Jones might end up leaving, but Kansas City hopes that they can keep him. We'll see.
Also, it seems like if Kyle Shanahan were being private and honest and ranking positions on a football team from most important to least important, I would think he would have right guard at the bottom or near the bottom.
Yeah. It'd be
And like,
22nd.
yeah, but it's like, and for sure, I understand you got to put one position at the bottom, but that's the position that's matching up with Chris Jones in the Super Bowl. So it's kind of important.
Yeah. Well, it's just, you have to think in terms of the competitive dynamics as opposed to the X's and O's. That you've got this guy, he's a physical beast, he's huge, he's strong, he's fast. How do you match up with him? You get somebody that's huge and fast. That's why you
they
do
wanted
something
smaller
like
guys
trade up.
before, like Daniel Brunskill and maybe Spencer Burford, but maybe potentially to match up with Aaron Donald. But now you need a big right guard.
The game has evolved. The guy that invented the wide zone running scheme advocated not using high picks on offensive linemen. That all you needed was tweeners that were competitive dogs, and they could execute the system if they moved well. The problem is the game has evolved to the point now where the defensive ends and the defensive line are so physically gifted, you can't get away with that tactic any longer. It doesn't work. And we saw that play out in both Super Bowls.
Yeah, and it's like the way the Niners like to run the outside zone is with smaller, quicker guys who can get those reach blocks. But the way Chris Jones can blow up that play is just by pushing the guy into the backfield. Penetration blows it up every time.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a reach block freaking Chris Jones. You need someone who can hold their ground.
It gets back to, you have to value the player himself. You have to see who's that X, who's that O, as opposed to just if the X and the O do this, then I can do that. You have to factor the player in. And when that player is Chris Jones, and he's a big reason why Kansas City's beat you in 2 Super Bowls, you have to match up. And that's why I don't get this of not using, when you've got this level of talent, when it's a historic draft in the offensive line talent, then walk away and say, we're not going to trade up for any of these guys. And Chris Jones is going to say, cool.
That's why I'm saying I think the Niners, from the way they scapegoated Spencer Burford to the fact that they seem to be understanding that they need to make moves with the Chiefs in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if they spent their first or second round pick this year on a guard. A day one starting right guard. Someone who played right guard. Not one of these like, oh, he played left tackle in college, but we think he'd really fit great at right guard for us. No. A right guard.
Actual right guard.
Because that's the thing with Burford. I mean, he's in such a tough spot. He's one of these, he played left tackle in college, and the Niners think he'd be a great fit at right guard. Like, where's the evidence?
Well, you're projecting his skill sets and saying he can do this, and you don't know until they play.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that UTSA, he's got a lot of work to put in to get to NFL strength, where you can match up physically. And so it doesn't matter if he's got a skill set that projects to guard if he's just overpowered. And that's what's happened.
But wouldn't strength be more of an issue?
You got to take a guard that's actually a guard.
I mean, I agree. That's a big thing. But if the player's issue is strength, I mean, doesn't that get exacerbated in the interior? Like, against D tackles who are 330, man.
And it makes it harder for Purdy in that they're going to give up more ground to that player in pass pro.
Yeah. Okay. One more thing. Over the week, the Niners hired Mick Lombardi as an offensive assistant. They haven't announced what he'll be. I'm assuming it'll be the pass game coordinator, considering he was just an offensive coordinator for a year and a half with the Raiders. Why do you think the Niners went outside the organization to bring in Mick Lombardi? Why do you think they wanted him? Because I know.
I think it's because he did so well in shoehorning Jerry Porter into the basketball tournament in junior high. No, I think one of the keys is that, and this was shown by interviewing Dave Meggett, that Kyle sees a need to say we've got to get more information on how to deal with simulated pressure, DB blitzes, schemes that a lot of teams are throwing at us and succeeding with. I mean, look at what Baltimore did to us. Look at what Kansas City did. Look at what Cleveland did. The best defensive coordinators in the league are chewing up this offense. And now here's a guy in Lombardi who went up against the Chiefs twice a year and is somebody that's also faced common opponents that the Niners are going to face. The Niners play the AFC East next year. The Raiders just did that last year. So he's going to have a working familiarity with them. And with Seattle hiring Mike McDonald, that's another guy that's going to bring simulated pressure. So you're going to face that at least 2 more times a year with him. You need somebody that knows how to beat that system. I don't know if Lombardi does, but I think that's the thinking behind it. But if Lombardi was just going to be the pass game coordinator, they already would have announced that. So I think he's going to get a hybrid role of some kind, that it's going to be pass game coordinator and something else.
So you think he got the job because he's the best man for the job?
I think that he was perceived as having the necessary skill set.
Okay.
Not necessarily best man for the job, but somebody that knows what we don't, that we need to know.
He's a particular set of skills.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go way. He's Liam Neeson. I'm gonna go way more cynical. His dad worked for Kyle's dad in 2007.
Here we go.
In Denver. And I think it's kind of interesting that when Kyle's coaching staff gets a little picked over, he always gets someone out of left field that his dad knows. When he lost his quarterback coach and needed another one, Brian Greasy showed up. Like, Brian Greasy. Oh, your dad. I think Mike Shanahan does a lot more for this organization than people realize.
Well, he's got.
I think he told Kyle, "Hey man, take Mike Lombardi's son. He's good. I know."
Yeah. Well, and Mike Lombardi has proven that he's got good football knowledge, and his son has built a career in the league. So why not?
And the Shanahans have had a lot of success working with the people they know and they trust. And he's in that trust tree.
It's work to do that. So why not keep going back to that if it works?
Yeah. I just want to point out that, again, this to me was a Mike Shanahan suggestion.
Yeah.
Did Kyle come to
that's a great
think
call,
of Mick Lombardi on his own, or did he get a call from his dad being like, I got you? I was just watching Grant Cohn's show. He made the point that you need a pass game coordinator. Let's move on that. I got a name for you. Mick.
Yep. All the puzzle pieces fit on that. That's a great call.
I just can't believe that a guy I played Little League with is that high up in a football organization. Like, it could have been me.
Yeah.
Why not me? I want to do game planning. I played Madden a little bit.
Put that on the resume.
I could do it.
Scored X points in a Madden game. Yeah.
Anyway, the only point I wanted to make is that this has Mike Shanahan's fingerprints on it, and it's interesting to see that. They do such a good job of concealing his impact. He's not on the team.
Yeah, but he's there.
He's there a lot in training camp. He watches the practices, even if he's not there. He has input on a lot of things, and I think that's he loves his son.
Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that.
Or they're both very controlling people, and he can't let go.
All the above.
Well, God love him. Draft a center. No, Matt McEwen says Kyle thought Debo was an all-pro. That's why he threw it to him 11 times against McDuffie.
Yeah. Well, how many of those targets were because that was the hot read for Brock is the other question I would ask. But nonetheless, it's still way too many. And it gets back to my point of, does Kyle know who he's playing against? When you put Tyler Kroft on an island against Hassan Reddick, that argues that you don't. When you throw 11 times against Trent McDuffie, it's another argument that you don't. He should. You would think that's beyond reproach, but he's proven that, come on now. Now, where's the adjustment to say, McDuffie's an all-pro. Maybe we shouldn't throw at him so much.
Just had a thought. And I'm not trying to take the blame off of Kyle Shanahan here because he's the offensive coordinator, but technically the pass game coordinator for the Niners last year was Clint Kubiak, who was interviewing for jobs during the playoffs.
Right.
And got one. And then in the Super Bowl, the Niners pass game couldn't pick up a blitz to save its life. I wonder if Clint Kubiak having dual responsibilities affected. I don't know. I wonder. I don't really know what the division of labor is over there, but maybe having a pass game coordinator who isn't, auditioning for other jobs could help the Niners. It could. I don't know.
Could. Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
And how'd they get Clint Kubiak? Because his dad worked with Mike Shanahan.
That's right.
That's right.
But The bit on the resume of saying no one else will hire me is apparently something Kyle is
They
valuing
should
right
get
now.
they should get Ed
Staley,
McCaffrey.
who's ever going to hire Staley to be a head coach again? And so Kyle says,
Never.
okay, good. That means that he can stick around.
Yeah.
Maybe he's thinking the
like
same
their
thing
Josh
with
McDaniel.
Lombardi. Yeah.
These brainy guys who are so unlikable that like you got them in your organization for life. You want to try to be a head coach again? Go ahead. Go get some money, get fired, come back. Yeah. Anyway. Free agency starts in 2 days. Monday is going down. We're starting to hear things. Look for the Niners to make a move at the end. There's too many good ones available, and there's too many teams in the NFC who are going to make that move. And it is an arms race between the Niners and the Lions, and to the Rams to an extent as well. And I don't expect the Niners to stand pat. It's not how they work. This is their year. They got to go all in. Big move coming. Hopefully.
I think they'll take a big swing, and it's probably at edge.
I would think so too. And if last year's big swing at Javon Hargrave is any indicator, it's going to be great.
It's going to really work.
It's going to work out. Make sure the guy can defend the run if you're giving him $20+ million per year. Please. That's part of the job.
Yeah.
Part of the job. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.